Coming up on the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast.
This is really good for people that have autism. Her daughter had a rare genetic disorder like autism, was 16, but at, kind of a kindergarten level of functioning and academically. In 15, and had always like ADHD, moving all the time, even in her sleep. She was constantly very combative, very problematic and challenging on every front. Could not be left alone for 1 minute. And in 15 days, she had like her whole demeanor. She was calmer. She was able to sit and she was reading for the first time on her own. She'd made a snack. She cleaned up. She was ready for the tutor. And so she didn't give her ADHD medicine, and she's never given it to her again since. So that was day 15. At the 5-month mark, they retested her and she went from kindergarten to 4th grade level in just 5 weeks.
Hello, and welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I'm Darlene Greene, and I'm here to give you actionable tips to get your body back to what it once was 5, 10, even 15 years ago. Each week, I'll give you an in-depth interview with a health expert from around the world to cut through the fluff and get you long-term sustainable results. This week, I interviewed stem cell consultant Darlene Greene. Did you know that by the age 35, you've lost almost half your stem cell activity? And by age 60, you have lost almost all of your stem cell activity. While Darlene and myself are going to discuss how you can utilize stem cell patches to potentially take back your health. We also discuss how Darlene's husband has improved his battle with Alzheimer's by using these patches, how Patented X39 Phototherapy Patches work, who can wear them, who can't, which patches you might wear for certain conditions, how these patches might help your child with ADHD, and much, much more. I really enjoyed my interview with Darlene. I know you will too. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. My name is Darlene Greene, and I have Darlene Greene on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be here.
Great to have you on. I'm a little jealous you're in Arizona, but it's all good.
Oh yeah, it had a beautiful day. I actually was almost too warm when we hit 67 outside. I was in a sweater and I'm like, this is too hot for a sweater.
Oh God. I'm looking down at my computer. It's the evening here, -4. It says on my, it's been.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
it's a cold front crossing our country. And
I think it's only going to be for the next couple of days, and then we should break out of it. So my dogs aren't loving it, but we'll make it through. We'll make it through. Well, I'm excited to have you on. Stem cell activation. We're going to talk all about it, the technology, and I know that it's been a big influence on your life and your family's life. So maybe give a little bit of background of, sort of how this came about within, your life.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So I have had a health focus, and I did medical conferences just for the fun of it for a long time because I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in 1996, and then fibromyalgia in 1999, and then POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia. In fact, one of your guest speakers was talking about those fainting episodes and having the syncope and about POTS. I think it was the Dr. Daigle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was talking about that on one of your podcasts, and I was like, "Yep, that's what I had." And I have been exploring opportunities and options for quite some time, but I was at a point where I actually had to take a medicine called fludrocortisone to increase my blood pressure to get enough blood to the brain to keep me from passing out. And if ever there was a bad idea, that sounds like it to me. But what really launched this effort was my husband was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's, and he was just 64. He is 67 now, and when we started this journey, I looked and read and researched everything possible. Everything seemed to point to stem cells. So we actually went out of country on 4 different occasions to get IV stem cell and injections. And it was very expensive. It was $10,000 a piece. And we both did it because I wanted to help my immune system, my autoimmune disorders, and he was trying to help the Alzheimer's. We never saw any results from that. We tried hyperbaric chamber, which was also expensive. That did not help. We completely revamped the diet in accordance with Dr. Bredeson's protocol, which meant really a lot of the things that you propose. We eat really clean. We threw out everything from alcohol to soda to white sugar, white flour. We do low carb, but mostly we're not worried about the carb as much as really getting good vegetables, grass-fed proteins, organic eggs, those kinds of things, and very high quality fats, the avocado oils, the olive oils, and the extra virgin olive oil, and the coconut oil. So we really did that. And again, nothing really helped. We exercise, we do weight training, we have a trainer, we like 6 days a week, we're just doing all the things, sleep protocol. We really we have red lights in our bathroom. We're working on making sure we get deep sleep as well as, you name it, I was trying it and the decline continued to a point where my husband was really a shell of his former self, to be quite honest, Brian. He was a zombie in his own body. He was no longer engaging in conversation. He was no longer able to hold it. I just think it was too hard for him. So he was sleeping the day away. He would like sleep 3.5 hours and then fall asleep in the chair for longer. And then he would fall asleep at 7 p.m. at night. We went to bed at 8:30. So we still kind of go up at 8:30 to get a good night's sleep. So it wasn't like he wasn't, but it was really tough. The hardest part for me is that we lost his personality. He was no longer even trying to be funny. And that was the core of his essence, was to be funny all the time, whether in trouble or not, he was always trying to be funny. And he was not even trying anymore. So I was at a point of desperation. And I remember when you were talking to the doctor, I was just referencing the people that went to him in the last ditch effort, right? This is kind of where I was when someone said, we've transformed our health with this non-transdermal patch that elevates and activates your own stem cells. I was like, okay, I'm in. Like everything about stem cells, I'm in. So we started patching. And in that first week, he didn't nap at all. He was engaged in conversation like a dam broke. And all of a sudden he is talking and talking. I couldn't even believe it. He was asking the right questions. He was responding appropriately. He was with it. And the most fun was he was funny and flirty again. He was back to being my husband's personality. So different. And then over time, other things came about. Like it was probably not, the second week he got the best sleep of his life. So we were tracking, we're looking at this, and my best was like 15 minutes of deep sleep for him, which is terrible. With all of my efforts, getting your eyes on the morning sun, grounding, and 15 minutes really, but that's when the brain flushes all those bad toxins. It's so critical. So but the second week he got an hour and 20 minutes of deep sleep. So that was phenomenal. And then I think it was like the 10th week, he regained the ability to whistle and to drum, which he'd lost. His blood pressure dropped 37 points. And then at the 5-month mark, he regained his sense of smell. And he has always had this pretty substantial bald spot in the back of his head. And it was, he's had sort of blonde to silver hair for quite some time. But this bald spot started closing up. And not only did it start closing up, but chestnut brown hair came in. And I was like, when have you ever had chestnut brown hair? He's like, when I was a kid, I did. So his hair is closing in, and he's just still living with vitality, and he's definitely not cured. So I don't want anybody to think my husband's cured of Alzheimer's, but I've got my husband back, and there's, new neuro advances that are taking place along the way. And so I'm really, really pleased with that. And then I actually had my own story. So I was at a place where I mentioned the autoimmune disorders. And of course, going into the pandemic, that's scary. You're highly susceptible. But what had happened for me is I broke my foot and sprained my ankle, snapped a ligament 100%, another one 90%. So I needed ankle surgery. And I was depressed to the point of wanting to cry every day. Here I was, all my coping mechanisms went out the door when I couldn't play pickleball, and I couldn't go for a morning walk, and I couldn't socialize with my friends, and I was just stuck at home. And when I would ask my husband for a glass of water, he could not do that. He could not do that. That's where we were. And so I was just like, I cannot believe this is my life. So I wanted to cry every day, and I was depressed. And I don't even know when it happened. It was like 2 weeks, that depression just lifted. It just evaporated. I didn't have to take that fludrocortisone ever again. I have not had any fainting episodes in 10 months. My rosacea that I had on my forehead for years and years, and went to a dermatologist for 3 months, it cleared up and has not come. I mean, my skin became so soft. I was the person coating Cetaphil lotion and actually traveling with a tub of cream because that's how dry my skin was, not just because I'm in Arizona, but anywhere I went. And I don't have to do that anymore. I have very soft skin. And then I also had this amazing, there's a patch for pain that is the most unbelievable thing on the planet. I just wish anybody in pain, I could get my hands on them, because it takes away your pain in 15 seconds. It is just remarkable. I actually had somebody come over to my house today who was crying all day, has had severe neck pain for years, had a brain surgery and a neck surgery, and all sorts of things went wrong. And she's like, I cannot take it anymore. And in 15, it was less than a minute, I found the right spot. You have to find the right spot with ice wave patching, but I found the right spot, and in 15 seconds, her pain was gone. And she's like, I'm having trouble keeping from crying out of joy, because we took it from, like a 7 or 8 to a 1. That fast. And I was able to do that with my foot, with my ankle. So getting out of pain was phenomenal. And then just not having any symptoms of the fibromyalgia or the chronic fatigue syndrome, finally dropping weight, my hormones balancing, my
Now, Darlene, let me just ask you. So just so people know, like, they're probably like, well, what are you sort of talking about with these patches? I know they're stem cell activation patches.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What am I talking about?
Yeah, right. Obviously, these are great results, and
Yeah.
can help obviously a lot of people. So
let me show you what it looks like. It looks like this quarter-size white patch, right? It's just a tiny quarter-size patch. And the way it works is very much like when you go out in the sun, your body has a signal on its skin that says, make vitamin D, right? And we all know that. We all need to get that vitamin D from the sun for 20 minutes or so, or melanin from the suntan. Your body changes as a result of the light. Your doctor was talking about light therapy, red light therapy, blue light therapy, all of these different light. We've studied light therapy for 5,000 years, so we know about light. But what people have not thought about, I think, is inside of you is light. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles, I would see light inside of you. So you have light inside of you, light and heat. And what this patch does, it's a non-transdermal patch. There's nothing in it going in your body. It's reflecting your own light back. There's a lot of structure of aminocrystals, nanocrystals, that serve to reflect the light inside of you back into you at a very specific wavelength that elevates copper peptide. And I had never heard of copper peptide, but if you actually Google copper peptide, which is GHK-CU, you'll see it's been studied widely for 50 years. It's very successful in a lot of areas. One of which is it increases your stem cells and it produces growth factors. But another one is it protects lung cells, including it restores your healthy function in COPD affected cells. So these are double-blind placebo-controlled studies showing antioxidant, anti-inflammatory behavior, showing improvement to the brain and the nerves, including altering the expression of human genes and inducing strong anti-anxiety and anti-aggression, anti-cancer benefits that include resetting the programmed cell death of human cancer cells. I mean, neuroblastoma, leukemia, breast cancer cells, but it doesn't affect the healthy cells. So it actually inhibits the things believed to promote cancer, repairs damaged DNA, and resets 84 different genes to that growth or cancer inhibition. It does amazing things for the skin and hair. You can actually see on my head. It's so frustrating.
Well, you do have great skin, I can tell you that.
Thank you. But do you see all these little hairs that are standing straight up? These are new hair growth. They're not quite long enough to sit down flat. So they're just part of the process of, you get all this new hair growth, and what do? You just kind of smile and go, okay, I'm going to have hair standing up for a little while. But it accelerates wound healing, and it does amazing things for the heart, Brian. One of the things, now this is GHK-CU, but it reduces fibrinogen synthesis, which is the top predictor of cardiovascular heart disease, and it increased myostatin, which inhibits heart failure. So this is GHK-CU. And when you look at the patent for our X39 stem cell activation patch, it shows that it elevates GHK-CU. So all of those benefits that you just can read in PubMed around GHK-CU are in fact part of what this patch does. And there was even a 2019 study that was just on X39, and it found, yes, it increased GHK-CU, but it also supported that cell and nerve regeneration. I love that for my husband. It balanced the brain. It improved the coherence in the brain, the left and right communication between hemispheres. It improved the nervous system. It lowered anxiety. It decreased brain inflammation. And you can even see this on the EEG, which is a part of the study. And I love that because you can see the first one before they started is like red, and it's got all this, it's red, which is sort of indicative of PTSD and anger and anxiety and hypercoherence, not good communicating brain. And in 3 weeks' time, they did the EEG again. And in session 2, you can see the color maps and the changes that come in, the yellows and the greens. And in session 3, which is 6 weeks later, people are reporting, I'm feeling so much better. I'm calmer. I'm able to focus. And in fact, it did prove improved memory, improved focus, improved cognitive brain function, and task processing, both ease and speed. So the more complex the task, the actual better the brain function. And I got to not only read about this, and there's over 90 clinical studies. We're in over 70 countries. There were over 300 Olympic athletes wearing these patches in the 2008 Olympics. And in fact, Tom Brady, the Kansas City Chiefs, there are a ton of people they're using these patches, but I'm like a little salty about that because I had never heard of that. Where was this 2 years ago when I needed it? That's my question, because we would be in a very different place today if we had caught this when my husband was still in a mild cognitive impairment area as opposed to full-blown dementia. It's really hard to back things up when you get to full-blown dementia. But when you're in the mild cognitive impairment stage, you have a lot of potential for reversing things. And even though we tried everything, and I'm still hopeful, I don't know that, I have to be clear about saying LifeWave products are not intended to cure, treat, or diagnose any illnesses. We're a general wellness product like a Band-Aid because nothing is going in the skin. So it's perfectly safe, no contraindications with any medicine. You can take any medicine that you're already on. You can go to chemotherapy. You can do anything that you would normally do. Although I do think people need to pay close attention to their numbers, because just like my husband's blood pressure dropped 37 points, if you're on a blood pressure medicine, you need to watch that. If you're on a cholesterol medicine, you need to take note because your cholesterol may drop dramatically. And your I have a doctor friend who's no longer taking any thyroid medicine because it's just balanced out and started working better.
And so I notice also on your website, I am reverse aging, right?
Yes.
There's more than one patch.
Yes. You start with X39. So everyone would start always with X39. It is the mama patch. It is the one that does everything when you can. Like, not everybody can afford everything. So the X39 patch is only $99 for a 1 month supply of patches, and you wear it 12 hours on and you take it 12 hours off. And all the patches are that way. You wear it 12 hours on and then you take it off after 12 hours. And not because there's not a little bit of life in it. There's probably about 18 hours of life in each patch. So we take it off and we put it on our dog, or we put it on our loved one because it does great things for them. But because you don't want your body to get so used to the signal that it stops responding, right? So 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And the second best patch to go next would be Aeon, which is the anti-inflammation patch. The inflammation in our body eats up the stem cells. When you're 30, Brian, half of your stem cells are dormant. When you're 60, and I'm 59, when you're 60, almost all of them are dormant. So it is really important. That's why we age, and that's why we don't heal so quickly. That's why we're not like little kids where you just bounce back from everything so quickly. So what happens is, if you can reduce that level of inflammation while you're increasing that stem cell activity, you can get better results faster. And so we call that the dynamic duo. And that's where we really like to start everyone that can do both. There are some people that's like, I can just do the $99 and that's it. But if you can, the Aeon is like $49.
So they would put both patches on together.
Yeah, I wear all the patches, and my husband wears all the patches just because we're impatient.
Oh, you wear all of them.
I wear all of them, but that's because I just I had all these issues and I really didn't have patience to wait. If you just wear X39, you can actually get the results. It's just going to take you longer. You just have to be more patient. I'm not a patient person. So you can ask anybody in my family. So we just launched, and there's another pouch that I want to, well, before I do that, I want to mention one other study on just X39 because it's a big one. It's on cardiovascular system. So the vascular system actually initially in 6 weeks, participants in a double-blind placebo-controlled study saw improvement in their vascular system. And I think this is what made the difference for me in my postural orthostatic tachycardia. In every 6 weeks, the cardiovascular system starts functioning as if it's 8 weeks younger. So I think that's what got my blood to my brain. So I stopped passing out. And there's an author of a book, Dr. John Harmon. He wrote the book, How to Reverse Aging, A Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides. And he goes through all the different things copper peptide does for you. But he had a right branch bundle blockage. And he started wearing the X39 and the Aeon patches. And in 14 months, he went back and had a scan, and the right branch bundle blockage was gone. Now, every doctor and cardiologist will tell you there's nothing that gets rid of a right branch bundle blockage. There's no surgery, there's no medicine, there's just nothing you can do. So that's a miracle. But these other patches, the other patch that I really like a lot and think, if there were 3 patches everybody could be on, it would be X39, Aeon, and Glutathione. And I love glutathione. For those who don't know about glutathione, please research glutathione. I was actually taking glutathione before I learned about the pouches. I was taking it orally or I was taking it via IV. But via IV, I was raising my glutathione levels 27% for 7 minutes. And it was also very expensive. But this patch of glutathione, it raises your glutathione levels 300%, and it stays there for 24 hours. So the combination of the X39, the glutathione, and the Aeon, which are missing because I brought them out to patch somebody today, these 3 together are what I think everybody needs to be on at some point, even if you don't start out, like we don't typically start people on glutathione because the X39 alone increases your glutathione levels by 30% every day. So that's a good start. The glutathione is your body's master antioxidant, but it's also a detoxifier, your master detoxifier. So if you detox too quickly, it'll all start floating around and you'll feel crappy. You got to drink a lot of water, like half your body weight in ounces of water to push all that out. But when you do the 3 of these, it knocks out spike proteins. I love that because everybody who's had a vaccination for COVID has spike proteins. Anybody who's had shedding from someone who's had the vaccination has spike proteins. Anybody who got COVID has spike proteins. So it takes 2 months essentially with these 3, and it will knock out those spike proteins. But glutathione does so many other wonderful things that repairing DNA, increasing cartilage. There's a study on knees where all of the people needed to have knee surgery. And they put a glutathione on one side of the knee, an Aeon on the other side of the knee, and they wore X39. And in just 2 or 3 months, I can't remember what it is, 0 of these people ended up having knee surgery because it regrew their cartilage. And most people don't think cartilage can be regrown, but it actually can. And we've actually proven that.
Now, how did you, were you introduced to this obviously from someone else?
Yes, actually it was. Someone who had a child that's kind of like autistic. This is really good for people that have autism. Her daughter had a rare genetic disorder like autism, was 16, but at, kind of a kindergarten level of functioning and academically. And had always like ADHD, moving all the time, even in her sleep. She was constantly very combative, very problematic and challenging on every front. Could not be left alone for 1 minute. And in 15 days, she had like her whole demeanor. She was calmer. She was able to sit and she was reading for the first time on her own. She'd made a snack. She cleaned up. She was ready for the tutor. And so she didn't give her ADHD medicine, and she's never given it to her again since. So that was day 15. At the 5-month mark, they retested her and she went from kindergarten to 4th grade level in just 5 weeks. And since then, her executive reasoning is up to a 16-year, like she has executive functioning now, which isn't supposed to be changing. Like the tester's like, this doesn't change. She didn't even register any executive reasoning the last time we tested her. So that person is the one who introduced me and said, I know you've been talking about stem cells, and this this is amazing, and it activates your own. Plus, she had her own health issues. Plus, she had a cousin who had Agent Orange leukemia, on the deathbed, sold all of his cows, being told, we're going to give you a drug. It's going to kill you, but it's going to improve your quality of life until you die. And she's like, please don't do that. Please just try these. He was on round the clock medicines, in a wheelchair bound, just living a very poor quality of life, in terrible pain. She IceWave patched him, got him out of pain. She also got him on the X39 and the Aeon. And in 3 days, he was out of bed. And in 2 weeks, he was traveling. And now he's bought his cows back. His white cell count is good. I mean, just he's living a very good quality of life now. And he was on his deathbed. And there are lots of deathbed stories. You know, someone told, you're going to die of lung cancer in 4 to 6 months. In fact, her picture is actually on my website. You can see the scan of all the cancer throughout her chest. She was, her name is Nikki. Lung cancer so bad she couldn't swallow. They had to feed her intravenously. And she did 5 of the patches that are super good for people that have cancer. They help optimize the body for those kinds of things. X39, Aeon, Glutathione, Elevita, and Carnosine. And in those 5 months, if you look at her second PET scan, and she's clear. She's clear of the cancer. So there's just so many potential benefits. There's really no one that can't benefit. And the only people that really have to be very careful about patching would be somebody that has an organ from someone else, a donor organ, because your immune system gets boosted so dramatically. And if you are on, they're usually on immune suppressant drugs, right? They can't have their immune system kick into too much gear. So you just want to watch that really carefully.
Mm. And so how long have you been wearing the patches for?
10 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. So fairly new.
Fairly new. And the studies that there are over 90 clinical studies. So I went initially, I was just a believer, just like, sign me up, I'll try anything, right? But since then, I've read 90 of the clinical studies, and then just a million testimonials, and shared with people. And my excitement stems from the joy of taking people out of pain and watching them heal and having them feel better. My relative who was suicidal and said to me, "Oh my gosh, you've changed my life. I am lifted out of the darkness. I've been there years. I just was ready to have God take me home." There are so many. I'm a Navy retired commander. I did 20 years in the Navy. And there are so many military with PTSD and depression. There are so many non-military with PTSD and depression and anxiety that need help. And everyone really thinks that pharmaceuticals are your only option. And what a terrible option, really, because they don't end up continually working at the same level, right? They just sort of stop. And so, and I'm not saying there's a place for everything. Do whatever you need to do, right? But I am saying there are alternatives, and this is a great one because it's affordable. It comes to your doorstep, and you just wear it 12 hours on, take it off. You can swim in it, you can bathe in it, it's just great.
Who developed the patches?
Yeah, I love the inventor. His name is David Schmidt. He's totally an inventor. That is what he does. He's still the owner and the founder of the company. He has over 150 patents on reverse aging or regenerative science. Mm-hmm. They're all focused on anti-aging. And he's been really on the leading edge of phototherapy for 20 years. His first patch was developed for U.S. Navy SEALs. He was asked by the Department of Defense to help them because they were staying up for 4 and 5 days at a time, and he didn't want them on amphetamines. For those of you who are like caffeine addicted and really have to have that, espresso or something to get you going, these patches are so much better for you, because to the point that the doctor was making, they work at your mitochondrial level. So the first patch, the energy enhancer, improves your fat burning and energy as a result of improving your mitochondrial energy. And I was actually looking into, how do I improve Jim's mitochondria before because as he pointed out, that's the root of all things, that mitochondrial powerhouse, right? So he actually founded that in 2004, that first one. And since then, of course, over 90 clinical studies, but he was awarded the Advanced Technology Award from the International Hall of Fame, not just once, but twice. We have offices and labs and manufacturing in California, Utah, and Ireland. And again, we're distributed in over 70 countries. And there's a reason the company, when X39 came about, it just skyrocketed. So we were doing like 30 million in business every year. And then X39, the stem cell activation patch, came out, and now we're doing like 30 million a month. It just 20 times growth in 4 years' time. There was an anesthesiologist, Dr. Joseph Peck. I love this quote because he's talking about your health is your greatest wealth. We want to live a high quality of life, however many years that is. We want it to be high quality. And he says the X39 is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. The most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. And so why isn't it on every newspaper, magazine, front page, and in the news?
Yeah. And is it the X39? Is it because of what it elevates, that GHK-CU peptides? Because the other, I noticed there's a sleep one.
Yeah. The other patches elevate, they basically are a different wavelength, right? That crystal lattice inside is elevating a different peptide. So the glutathione is elevating glutathione. The carnosine is elevating carnosine. The X49 patch, it's a great patch. So I can't tell my stem cells where to go. They're going to go where the body thinks they need it the most. And I would like to say to the X39, okay, I need all of those stem cells that are going in my husband's body to go right to his brain and do whatever you need to do for his Alzheimer's. But they may say, Darlene, Jim did 30 years in the Navy as a naval aviator. We are starting with his liver. You don't even know where we need to start. So, but I can't tell. I can't tell him what to do. But the daughter peptide of GHK-CU is AHK-CU. And AHK-CU lives in the brain and in the heart and in the muscle. And so when you do X49 on top of, you always do them on top. So everything's on top of X39. But when you do X49 on top of X39, even alone, actually the test was done alone, but it improves your cardiovascular system, your cognitive function, and you get faster recovery from exercise. It promotes bone density, it promotes lean muscle mass, and it reduces fat. And I love that because as someone that's 59, every weight loss program, the first problem is you're dropping muscle and you're dropping water, right? You got to lose fat and hold on with your every dear life to every bit of muscle that you have and keep promoting and growing that muscle. And so I love that we have a patch that is helping overall body toning by improving lean muscle mass and reducing fat loss.
Now, if you were doing the two patches and you put them in the same area, or it looks like there's two spots where you put them.
You can actually put them anywhere in your body. We have,
okay.
they basically, the spots that they're promoting were where they did the lab tests, but you can actually put X39 and X49 anywhere. Although I put X49 below my belly button and X39 behind my back. But if I'm injured, or if I have a shoulder injury, for example, like I was playing pickleball and my shoulder's a little tweaked, I'll put my X39 and my Aeon right on my shoulder because it alone offers pain relief and I may not have to use LifeWave. But we typically follow the meridians, and there are designated places where they've studied it. But there are, and some are more sensitive than others. So LifeWave is all about where you put it, but the rest of them, it's not. You can kind of put it in the area, in the general vicinity of any place that hurts. And if you're not hurting, you can put it anywhere in your body, really. You can even put it on the outside of your clothing, Brian. It can be outside of the back of a sweatshirt and it's still functioning.
How long would you say it takes? I mean, I'm sure everyone's a little bit different. I'd be curious, like you give it to someone that maybe doesn't have any crazy issues or anything, and how they would feel from it. That would be interesting. Or how long it would take to actually start feeling different.
80% experience benefits or that they feel in 3 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
A lot of people notice in the first week. Some people, I had someone who doubled their REM sleep in the first night. So some people are one patch miracles. It just depends on your body and you, but I would say most people experience something within 3 to 6 weeks that they notice that it feels good. A lot of people experience that brain clearing, the brain fog lifts, they're remembering better, that they don't even, my girlfriend that's a doctor, she was like, I don't really need it. I'm perfectly fine. I don't have any issues. Well, actually, all of a sudden she's feeling better. Her scoliosis is getting better. What else did she have? She had something else that was just like she didn't even think about, but it started feeling so, we think we're fine. We forget that we actually have been living with things for so long that it's become a part of us. But but they recommend you patch to activate all of your stem cells. You want to wear it 1 month for every decade you are old. So, I would wear it 6 months to see the full activation of all of my stem cells. And then if I stopped, I would just start experiencing normal aging. It's not like you start back at zero. It's not like a blood pressure medicine where you stop and all of a sudden your blood pressure goes skyrocketing.
That was going to be my next question was like, can you cycle on and off, or how would you?
Yeah, you can. And, a lot of people find they just feel so good on it that it's like, I'm just going to keep doing the X39. If once you get the inflammation out, although we kind of face inflammation every day, but really, you could stop, you could start later, you could, see the difference, you could run little tests, with yourself. And I think what I like about, the X39, the Aeon, and the glutathione, though, is, the people that live the longest in the world have the highest levels of glutathione. So even if you didn't do glutathione every single day, bumping that up every now and then is such a great thing for your overall longevity and getting that cartilage and all that good regeneration. But you don't have to. You haven't lost all that benefit of your gains by stopping. You're still dramatically improved. And even people that are in their 80s, late 80s, experience tremendous benefit. My parents, who are stronger and sturdier, they were fall risk. They were wobbly. They will self-admit to being wobbly. And my mom would just hold on for dear life everywhere we'd walk. And now she's just like strutting ahead. She doesn't even look back. She doesn't even think about it. And she'll say, well, I don't think I noticed any difference as she goes, forming a front. And my sister and I just roll our eyes like, yeah, Mom, what about your foot? Wasn't your foot really hurting you every day? Oh, yeah, it was. Didn't you limp when you first started these? Oh, yeah, I guess I did. So we do have a health tracker actually that we recommend people jot down where they are, because people forget where they were when they started. And a lot of people don't know that stem cells can be anything in the body. They can be heart or brain or lung or, bone or cartilage or muscle or anything, right? They made you when you were born. So those stem cells, I just think, have the power to do anything at all, really.
Wow. And your husband, he's been progressing pretty good. How long has he been on him?
He's been on him 10 months too. And those things that I talked about that have improved have stayed improved. And I'm hoping for more. He's still very much got dementia. And I will tell you, I can't go off they help me every single day to be the best care provider that I can be, because being a care provider is not for the faint of heart. It is very hard, and it tries your patience. And it is, it's hard to watch a grown adult not know the difference between shaving cream or toothpaste to put on a toothbrush. I mean, you got to watch everything. That can't necessarily go get a bottle of water from the refrigerator without a lot of supervision or even discussion. So it's really tough. And but the things that I talked about that improve that personality, his funniness, his exchange, his talking, he's not a zombie anymore. And I'm very, very grateful for that, because that was crushing my soul. That was just really crushing me. Now it's just, he just doesn't remember things. I can kind of deal with that,
Yeah. His quality of life has gotten better.
So much better. So much better. He's energetic. He works out 6 days a week. He's strong. He's, seeing that trainer. So it's really, it's good. People don't typically die of dementia. They die of something else, right? The body organs, the other systems. And so I'm at least feeling like we are doing everything we can to protect all of those other systems and to ensure, like an insurance policy almost, that they're doing their best work. And that, when I talked about that X49, I know that those are going into that brain and into the heart and into those areas that I need it to go.
Well, this was great, Darlene. Is there anything else you wanted to share regarding this stem cell activation
Oh, I
technology? Okay.
think only that most people are limited in their belief system to believe that doctors are the only place to look for alternatives, and that what their doctor says is all there is, that you have this disease and therefore this is all you have. You only have this option. This option for my husband causes brain bleeds in 50% of all people. Why would I do that, right? There are no good options for Alzheimer's. There are no cures for chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, or POTS, except look at me. So I would say they are trained by pharmaceutical companies in medical school. That's what they learn. They learn drugs and they learn surgery, and nothing against doctors. I'm not in any way against doctors. They are as a place. If I break my arm or when I broke my foot, that's where I went, right? I want to go
Sure.
there. For you to look at disease and real health and improving your health, there are alternatives that doctors just are not aware of. They have enough time barely to keep up with all the drugs that are being pushed at them and to know the side effects and to be able to manage that. I love that there is no side effect. There's no negative consequence. And there's a money back guarantee. So you can try it. And if you end up experiencing nothing, you just call and you get your money back. How great is that? That's because so many people end up enjoying it and finding the benefit. And I would encourage people to hold on to hope and to try. And, there are so many people in our lives that need this, that need something, whether they're depressed or whether they're in pain or whether they just have a history of family with heart issues or high blood pressure. There's amazing A1C stories or diabetes stories, or there's a story for everything. And if you can reach out to me on my website. There's a place to connect with me. I do a webinar every Thursday where there's a doctor on the call and there's my upline on the call, and we talk about I walk through how the patches work for 30 minutes, and then we take questions and answers. So you can very specifically and I record the first part, but I don't record the Q&A. That's private. You can ask anything you want of the doctor and you can get your questions answered. And that's really easy. That's a great way to get information. Or if you just reach out and want to talk to me one-on-one, I do a free consultation that I'm happy to meet with people. And again, this is not my job. Like, I have a job. I'm a director of client services for high-tech networks and security. That is my job. I oversee a program management office. We help make sure that networks and security in place for every big schools like ASU all the way to, the Paradise Valley district of high schools and elementary schools and middle schools. But what I would tell you is this is my passion. Like, this brings me joy and feeds my soul at a time when I needed that.
Yeah, wonderful. And I was just checking it out on your website, and that's IamReverseAging.com. I'll definitely put a link in the show notes so people can check that out and give it a try. I might have to try some of the patches myself and get back to you.
I would love that. Yeah. I would love that. And then you can get on and we can talk about all of the great you've had and what you've experienced. And I can't tell you the number of podcasters that I have do that. There are a lot of them and they go crazy. They're fun to watch because they're very talkative once they actually are on fire and feeling great. And that's been everything from, Boots Knighton, who does the heart chamber, to Amanda Larkin, who does, there's just a ton of podcasters that are doing these patches that are experiencing improvements and benefits. And that makes me really happy too. If nothing else, that makes me happy. There's somebody out there every day who needs this. And I just wish I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of research. So I would have loved to have known about this way back when I was 2 years ago, just 2 or 3 years ago. Would have really, gosh.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Darlene, for coming on.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate it. And I'll, people can reach out if they have questions, and I will, put all the links in the show notes. And I appreciate you sharing all the knowledge with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And they can even order them from my website. If you don't like talking to people and you don't even want to talk to me, you can just order. You can order. I'll still email and reach out and say, hey, I'm here for you if you need anything. There are people like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, thank you and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Brian. You too. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I understand there are millions of other podcasts out there and you've chosen to listen to mine, and I appreciate that. Check out the show notes at briangrin.com for everything that was mentioned in this episode. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend or family member that's looking to get their body back to what it once was. Thanks again and have a great day.